This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thanks a lot, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast. And today we are going to go back to our series we did last year. It was a very popular series about how to find the right boat for you. There's a lot of boats out there, and finding the one that's right for you is not as easy as it may sound. You know, you get lots of different information. You look around, friends tell you, oh, you got to have this one or that one. But what's right for you? And so I thought we'd start with a legendary manufacturer of boats. If you listen to the Montana Outdoor Podcast, the Montana Outdoor Radio Show, rather, you hear us talk about Warrior Boats quite often. They've been a great sponsor of ours. And also we talk about them because the captain and I ride in a Warrior boat and love it a great deal. So I thought we'd get Kent Andersen on here from Warrior Boats and talk a bit about what his thoughts are on helping you figure out what's the right boat for me. What should I choose? Kent, welcome to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. You were with us last year about this and did a great job. So thanks for coming on again with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dale.
Yeah. So let's chat a bit about this. First, I'd like people to get a little history for those that did not listen to the podcast last year. Our podcast has grown a lot over the 1 year. So for those that missed it, maybe you could kind of just go through the tops of the trees of the history of Warrior Boats. It is a very interesting history, as well as, you know, what you do at Warrior Boats.
Yeah, not a problem. So Warrior Boats has been around for a long time. There was original owners, the Latour family had them back in. They opened, I think they started making their first boats back in 1991, and they manufactured boats all the way up till 2009, and they had a few 2010 model year boats. There was no 2011s, and in 2009, when the economic turned down and some Family Feud stuff went on, and they kind of walked away, and there's four guys that kind of got together and said, hey, we hate to see this brand go away. What can we do to make it survive? And those four guys were Chuck Barth, David Andersen, Al Linen, and Pat Brookshaw. Got together and they brainstormed and came up with a pretty successful plan. You know, now we're going on like 14 years, I think it is now. So July of 2011, those four made an offer on the company and the molds, and the bank accepted, and they kind of looked at each other and said, hey guys, we bought a boat company. So it was scramble time. I ended up sitting down with the four of them, and, you know, I had some experience at Warrior in the past. I worked with Troy Latour in the rigging design side of things, and had a little bit of knowledge in it, and sat down and just chatted, and, you know, they threw an offer at me, and I took it, and we ran with it. Chuck got everything rocking and rolling up at the plant, and I went running around and getting vendors and dealers set up, and here we are 2 years later, and I'm a lot grayer, and Chuck, he was gray when we started, so that hasn't changed, but I'm guessing the industry has aged him. So, but it's been fun, you know. We'll just say that it's been fun. Met a ton of great people across the country, and we all share a common interest, and that's fishing and enjoying the great outdoors.
Well, running a company can certainly age you, but the great thing about running a boat company is the people you come in contact with are usually pretty happy. You do happy things, you do fun things, and that. So let's talk a bit about how to find the right boat for you. As I mentioned when we were, getting into this podcast, that's what we want to talk about today. Now, do you feel that, at least I do anyway, that boats tend to get manufactured and designed to fit a certain part of the market? Where they say, okay, this is the niche that we feel we fit into. What do you agree with that? Do you see that as what most boat manufacturers do?
I think to a degree you're right there. I mean, it's just like anything. There's not one wrench that fits every nut or every bolt, and there's not one pair of shoe that works for every athlete. Boats are the same thing. Each boat's got to have its niche. I mean, there's certain boats that'll cover a broader spectrum, but you're not going to see the wakeboard boat out fishing walleye or bass, and,
Yeah.
and you're not going to see probably a bass boat doing what a deep V boat can do, or like you guys have a lot of jet boats and stuff out your way. You're not going to see a jet or a guy with a prop boat going where the jet boats can go. So there's so much to it, and it's kind of like, what's the right boat for you? It's going to be what fits your needs the best.
Right. Well, and when you think about it, for a boat owner, especially a new boat owner, maybe somebody that's never owned a boat before or hasn't in a long time, but even somebody that's been boating for a long time, sometimes they don't know which niche they're in. Do you have any ideas as far as what kind of questions we should ask ourselves when we're trying to decide, well, what's the right boat for me?
Absolutely. I think the first thing is I would say you're going to want to look and see what waters you plan on fishing, how many people you plan to have in your boat. Are you going to fish in inclement weather, or are you going to be more of a fair weather fisherman? Those are some of the big things I'd say. Like your water type and conditions you're going to fish in are definitely probably the first thing you want to look at. Because if you're going to go fishing down below the dam at Fort Peck and want to race around like Captain does down there in his jet boat, you're probably not going to want to have a 238 Warrior and think you're going to go in the same spot.
Yeah, probably not a good idea.
But if you want to go fish on Fort Peck every day and don't care what the wind's going to do or the weather's going to send your way, probably your best choice is probably going to be a Warrior 238. So, it's all on perspective and what you want to do. And there's a lot of boats that you can do almost everything in, but just not everything in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and I think that's, you put it well there. Good example is, the captain and I, he had a boat that we'd go fishing at, a lot of different places and that. But when we really started to focus on Fort Peck, which is the largest lake in Montana, and it's huge, you're talking, 130 some miles long, and that can get some significant weather on it. And, first year that we were spending a lot of time on Fort Peck when we didn't have a Warrior, there were times that I was like, Captain, I don't know. I think we might want to go in. I started singing the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald a few times, just humming that along. When he decided, okay, I want to get a Warrior, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on, some big water like Fort Peck. So he gets the Warrior, and boy, I could tell the difference immediately. And the other thing that we found, we ended up being able to stay on the water a lot longer, which was a huge difference. So I think those are good questions that we should be asking ourselves, because boats are not cheap. You look at boats nowadays; they're designed with some pretty incredible things. So before you drop that kind of dough, you really should think hard on this and ask yourself some questions. So talking about how we pick this right boat. Do you see Warrior boats? I mean, can you describe what the typical Warrior boat owner is like? We were talking about that niche a little bit. I mean, is there a certain type of boat owner that is attracted to Warrior boats, do you think?
I don't know if there's a certain one or not. It's I would say we all share the same common ground that we all enjoy fishing and we all enjoy the great outdoors. As far as is there a certain warrior owner, the way I look at it, and you might say this is arrogant or not, I always say there's two boat owners out there. They're the ones that own a warrior boat and the ones that want to own a warrior boat. So 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 that's just kind of my take on it. I mean, even the people that might run brand X, there's still certain days where in those adverse conditions when a warrior goes by them, you can't tell me they don't wish they were riding in that ride instead of the one they were in. So, but going back,
why do you think Warrior boats are that way? What makes them able to take on that kind of water and do that?
the hull design, 100%. It's in the hull design and the construction of the boat. Everybody's got their lane they choose, and there's some manufacturers out there that want to prize on being the fastest boat, or this, that, or the other thing. I mean, speed's probably the biggest thing everybody's striving for, and we've kind of stepped back from that, and we want to build our boats to give the customer the greatest experience they can on the water. And what that means is if they're out and they end up getting in 3 to 4 foot seas, maybe larger, 8 foot, whatever you see, we want to make sure you're going to get back safely to the dock and you're going to feel comfortable doing it. You spend that kind of money on a piece of equipment, you don't want to wish, the days you're out there saying, man, I really wish I had something else that, or another thing that when people go on a vacation, I have this conversation many times throughout the boat show season is, yes, the Warrior boats are on the higher end of the price range, but at the end of the day, you spend a bunch of money to go on a trip somewhere and you're at a body of water that's quite large and the wind blows every day and you end up sitting on the shore and just looking out there, opposed to if you had a boat that you feel safe and comfortable in and you can go out and enjoy, catch fish, and again enjoy the great outdoors. Is that savings on going to a different brand really a savings at that point? It's kind of like a lot of people always say, or a lot of my dealers and good friends of mine say, why buy or buy your last boat first? Because the most expensive boat's the wrong boat. And what that would mean is you buy a boat that isn't the right boat, or you bought that boat for, reasons that you couldn't, say you wanted a 238, but you couldn't afford a 238, so you buy a 20-foot aluminum boat. Well, for the price of that 20-foot aluminum boat, you maybe been able to get into a Warrior 198 or a Warrior 193 for the same price, which is going to handle the water better than that 20-foot boat is anyways. But you go buy that 20-foot aluminum boat and all of a sudden you're like, well, this just isn't it. I need a fiberglass boat. Well, it's going to cost you a lot more money now to go to that fiberglass boat over that aluminum boat. So that's kind of where that, but the most expensive boat is buying the wrong boat, and buy your last boat first, a little bit more money. And sometimes, it's, you might not be able to swing. Your mind might be set that you feel you need a 20-foot boat or a 23-foot boat, but in essence, if you went to the 19-foot boat, you're probably going to be happy there and it's going to do everything you want it to do.
Yeah, and I think, another good idea, if you're really kind of torn between, oh man, I'm not sure, go out to, if you're over at Fort Peck, go out to Fort Peck Marina. If you're over at Flathead Lake, go out to one of the boat ramps there. One thing I know about boat owners is they love to show off their boat. They love to talk about their boat. They're not, on rare occasion, they're not going to be offended. Go ask them, hey, I noticed you use a Warrior, or you use this or that. Why did you get that boat? Go ask them. And odds are they'll say, hey, you want to take a ride? Hop in it and take a ride. I think that's a really good way. If you want just a objective thing, go talk to people about it, and you're going to learn some really good, honest information about it. I know for Warrior owners, and I know a lot of them, they're more than happy to talk about it. And that's one thing, I'll brag on your brand a bit here, Kent. I have not met one dissatisfied Warrior boat owner. I mean, they're quite happy. So, but again, that's doing your research and thinking, okay, what am I use it for? We're going to take a quick break here, Kent. When we come back, let's get into the different models that you guys have. I think that's going to be really interesting, because you guys cover the gamut quite a bit here, and that's going to give all of you people listening to this podcast that are searching for the right boat, this will let you dig in a little deeper too. If you want to follow along with us, you sure can. Also, I'll have a link in the podcast description, and you'll be able to click on that. After you listen, you can go back and click on it and look at everything. If you want to follow along as we talk about these boats, you can go to warriorboatsinc.com and pull that up, and as we go along, you can kind of see what and follow along what we're looking at. So either way, give you a good idea. So we'll be back with that and a lot more right after this on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. I want to talk a bit about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Gang, when you're ready to invest in a new or pre-owned cargo trailer, or maybe a new truck bed for your work truck, or perhaps an equipment trailer, or even a really cool dump trailer, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is prepared to exceed your expectations, and I mean that. Their unparalleled selection means that they have something for every customer that's sure to please. Their friendly and knowledgeable sales staff, financing, and service departments are prepared to make sure your experience is outstanding, from assisting you while you're making your choice to ongoing maintenance and customization. At Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, they truly do value the opportunity to create a long-term relationship with their customers. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is your locally owned CM truck bed and Diamond C dealer. They offer a wide variety of auto, truck, and trailer accessories and specialize in sales and service of trailers. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is conveniently located at 5680 Expressway right there in Missoula, Montana. They'd love it if you stopped by and saw them, or you can visit them on the web. That's rmtte.com. Again, rmtte.com. Or you can simply just give them a call, 406-549-4243. That's 406-549-4243. And find out how their team can help you find the perfect CM truck bed or Diamond C trailer, or any of the other products and services they have that you might be looking for. Go see them. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. We are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. I'm talking with Ken Andersen of Warrior Boats. We are kicking off our series about how to find the right boat for you. And Kent's been giving us some great advice on that, and, of course, talking about Warrior Boats. Kent, let's get into the different models that Warrior has, and maybe you can give us an idea of, okay, this model would fit well if you're going to do this or that. And also, if there have been any significant changes in the designs from, say, last year or whatever, maybe mention those too. I wanted to start with the back trollers that you guys have, that the V1890 and the V2090. Tell us a bit about those models and why a person might want to choose those.
For me, it's easy. I run a tiller boat myself. I run a 2090, and it's the 2090 hands down is the baddest fishing tool on the market. It's all fishing.
Yeah.
It's from the front to the back. It's ready to rock and roll. And the tiller aspect of it is not everybody's going to be a tiller guy, or gal. It's a different breed. I don't know. It might be a little short upstairs, whatever, some days when I'm running it. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's always the question. Everybody says, "Oh, it's got to be miserable driving that tiller. It's got to be cold. It's got to be wet. It's got to be this." Really, once you learn to drive them, they're not that bad. They're not that wet. There's going to be days you're just going to take a bath. When the wind or the waves are just right, you're gonna get some water on you. But I tell people, I fish a fair amount, and there may be a handful of days a year where I'm driving to point A and point B, and I'm like, man, this sucks. I wish I had a windshield. But yet, to this day, I've never gotten anywhere and started fishing and said, boy, I wish I had a windshield.
Well, isn't that true? I mean,
so-
once you're there, you're there. Unless you're trolling for some damn fast fish, you're not going to be moving like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start with this because I know you really like that boat. If you guys have ever been out to when Kent has had his boat there, I know at the Governor's Cup, you'll see Kent a lot of times there, and at other events around Montana, though you don't get here a whole lot. But when you do, you can take a look at his boat. And when you say tiller, that's the folks are driving it from the back, actually steering with the motor itself, correct?
Correct. So you steer with the tiller handle, and nowadays it's way more advanced than it used to be. So, and this steering system has been around for a long time. Troy Latour designed the system back in '99. It's called Pro Tiller. Now it's Pro Tiller 2. We've changed a few things on it, but our proprietary system is the Pro Tiller system. So we can put that on Mercury, Yamaha, and Suzuki outboards, and we can put on tiller handles up to a 250 horse on those brands. Mercury, they have their own Mercury steering system, big tiller system, so you can have a tiller on up to a 250 with the Mercury system. Both systems do the same thing, but are completely different how they operate. So with the Pro Tiller system, you have a on-off switch. If it's off, you're steering that motor manually. It's no different than steering your grandpa's 25 horse on the back of a 14-foot boat. You're sitting there steering it. But when you go on plane, you flip the switch on, and it actually locks that motor, and you cannot steer it by hand. There's a switch for switching steering it left and right. On the Mercury system, that system is always powered on when the motor's running. When the motor's off, it's very hard to move that motor. But when the motor's running, it's full power. So then if you push on the tiller handle, it's going to go that way. If you pull on the tiller handle, it's going to come towards you. For me, I like the Warrior system for many reasons. Like, one of the biggest reasons would be running in rough water. I feel like when I'm running in rough water, I have so much more control with that system. My steering's locked, the motor's not moving. If I hit the handle, it's not going anywhere. So I got a good solid grip on my hand, and my left hand with the tiller handle, right hand hanging onto the handle where the switch is, 2 feet flat on the floor, and I'm just solid in driver's position. Where with the Mercury system, if you come off a wave wrong or whatever, you can hit that handle and move you around. So that's just my opinion, and I feel very comfortable with our system. And people that come into the Pro Tiller, I always tell them, go out and spend a half day just driving around. Now another thing when we talk about tiller boats as a whole, why would you want a tiller boat? Well, in my opinion, with the way things are going now, why wouldn't you want a tiller boat? Everybody's up in the front, forward-facing sonar fishing, casting at individual fish. Why do you want to have counsels in your way? Why not have just a 20.5-foot platform to play on? And as far as running in rough water, there's nothing that compares to the 2090 except for maybe our 238. And you just have a ton of storage. You have a big dance floor up front. You can do so much with that boat. And I feel there's many things you can do with that boat that others can't do with a windshield boat. So, I mean, why not a 2090? Obviously, a lot of people, the comfort, that type of thing, because you do give that up with a tiller. You're not going to have that windshield to sit behind. You're going to be in inclement weather. You're going to get splashed. If it's raining out, you're getting rain in your face. If it's cold, you're getting cold. So it's not for everybody. But though, if you're a die-hard angler and you just are, want the baddest fishing machine on the water, that 2090 is very tough to beat. And the 1890 just comes in just as its little brother. It covered 90 horse rating. You're looking at something that's going to run in the mid to upper 30s. It's going to plane out nice. You're going to be able to take that boat anywhere you would ever want to go. I mean, most people, if it's over 4-foot waves, aren't going to go fishing anyways, and that 1890 will do everything you want it to do. It's got a ton of storage. On the 2090, 1890, for me, if I'm not up front, I'm in the back, and everything I need is right there. I can have my graphs in front of me. I can reach my rods on the shelf, my tackle stored underneath my electronics. Everything is right there that you need. So it's just a neat thing. And then if you want to do some structure fishing, live bait fishing, whatever, if you're out at Fort Peck and you want to go do some lake trout fishing, it's pretty tough to beat the 2090 if you want to sharpshoot them. You drive around, you mark them on your forward imaging and drop it right on their head.
Yeah.
You never set the big motor off, and it's tough to beat that way. So, I mean, the tillers, like I said, they're not for everybody. But if you're a diehard fisherman and you get out in one, you'd be like, man, this thing is pretty impressive. Yes, hopefully when you get splashed in the face, you don't get scared.
There you go. Well, one thing that I was amazed about, because I had never seen a tiller boat that big before, is the amount of room, like you were saying, just unbelievable. So you want some room to spread out and be all over the place. It's pretty amazing, for you guys that just love to get a few people on there and jig away in that. Holy smokes. And talk about turning sharp. Wow. You can turn, you've got a big boat there and you can turn that thing like on a dime. So interesting option there. Now let's get into the dual console boat. Now I've heard the term dual console so many times, and I guess I've never, when I just look at the kind of the standard boat, I guess I didn't know they were called dual console. What is a dual console boat? It's just your basic boat, right? That we see most often.
It is, but so the side console thing is less and less. Bass boats, I think there's still a fair amount of side consoles being used, but as far as like deep V, even in the aluminum fish stuff, I don't think the side console thing is quite as big as it used to be. So side console, single console, side console would be where just the driver has its control console where the steering wheel is. A dual console is going to have the same thing, but you're going to have a console on the other side mirrored minus the steering wheel. Most of them have a glove box in it or whatever. So then both you and your passenger are protected by a windshield. Some are double bubbles, some are full walkthrough. You see more full walkthroughs, I think, nowadays than you ever used to. Probably a lot of that has to do with better windshields. They're staying together. We've been fortunate enough. We use a very high-end windshield on our boats with fully bonded. The windshields are glued into the frame, so we don't have windshield issues like many others do. So that's kind of the baseline of a dual console. Is it's got two consoles in it that both passenger and driver are going to be sitting behind a windshield protected from the weather.
And that's probably what a lot of you listening are used to seeing. And you got the walkthrough in the middle of the windshield where it flaps open. You can walk out onto the bow, and if you ever see the captain and I out fishing, he's usually up on the bow. I'm usually in the back, and we got electronics all over the place. So that's probably the most typical Warrior that you're going to see out on, say, Fort Peck or some of the other lakes around Montana. Talk about some of the different models there. one of the things I do notice, a lot of guides out on Fort Peck use those Warrior dual consoles, don't they?
Absolutely. I think one of the big reasons for it is traditionally we have a larger cockpit than most others. So if you're a guide, you're going to want to have that space in the back because there might be one, maybe two people up front. Everybody else is going to be in the back of the boat. So it's good to have that little extra room back there for everybody to have elbow room. Nobody wants to pay a guide and feel like they're crammed into a soup can all day. They want to be able to stretch their legs and spread out and just give a little more room. And I think that's one of the big reasons why a lot of guides run Warriors and just the comfort, the ride, the dryness, again, nobody wants to hire a guide and feel like they're getting run through the ringer all day, getting beat up and just miserable. It's got to be a fun experience for them.
Right. And that's one of the things that obviously we love about the Warrior is it can take on pretty much any weather. Yes, there is some weather you just shouldn't be out there. I don't care what kind of boat you have. But for the most part, we don't miss any days of fishing, and it's extremely comfortable. Now, that's been at least in Montana, that's kind of the main staple out there. So walk us through some of the different models and where you see those fitting best for the different types of fishing that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start at the bottom of the line. So you got in our 19-foot class boats, we have a 193 and a 198. So your 198 is going to be just a little bit bigger than your 193 with a few added features. Like the 198 is going to have a raised front deck and a little smaller cockpit. It's going to have jump seats and a 25 or 225 rating on it. Where 193 is a little shorter. It's got a 200 rating. It's no jump seats in it, so there's a little bit more room in the back. Still going to come with your 4 seats. And the bow up front is going to be just a touch smaller than, say, your 198. So if you're a person that would be more concerned about having the room in the back and you're not necessarily wanting jump seats, the 193 is a great fit for you. That 193 is going to do and handle what what all 20-foot other competitors' boats are going to do. Just the way the hull design is and the ride and stuff like that, the way it tracks. If you're going to take that boat anywhere, anybody else take a 20-footer. 198 is going to be the same way. It's just a few more added features. It's a newer model, little more eye appeal to it. But at the end of the day, the 193 has still always been one of my favorite boats. I mean, it's just a versatile fishing machine. Great boat for family. Get your family out. It has plenty of room to get your kids in there and throw that ski pole on it, and away you go. Then we step up to our 203, which is what you and the captain run. Right. So the 203 and the 208 are kind of in the same boat. 203 is going to have a huge cockpit in the back. It's got 8 foot of cockpit in the back of that thing, and a little bit smaller bow up front, but it's got a raised bait well and cooler up front. And then with our 208s, just a little bit longer, a little bit wider than the 203, but you're going to have a little bit shorter cockpit on it and more bow space. And then you're going to add your jump seats to that, so you're going to have, if you want seating for 6, your 198, your 208, 238s are going to be places to go. And again, a 208 is a 20-foot boat, but in comparison, you'd want to compare that to the competitors' 21-footers just in the hull design, in their space, interior on that boat. The next step up is going to be a 2121. You probably don't see a lot of those out in Montana. I know we've sold a few out there. So and that's where we see that boat a lot of times is in your crossover type stuff. So your people that are salmon Great Lakes fishermen, but yet do a little walleye fishing, they like it, or people that just like the inside depth. All of our models have a 25-inch inside depth except for our 2121 and our 238. 2121 is 30.5 inside depth, and the 208 is 28-inch inside depth, or 27-inch inside depth. So you kind of, the 238 falls in between them both, but a lot of people just like that depth for security with kids and whatnot. And then the 2121's just got a little bit more dead rise on the back of the boat, which is why it's called 21 feet long, 21-degree dead rise. But that boat does not have jump seats. That's more like your 203 and your 193 layout. And then you come into the 238, which is just the king of deep V multi-species boats right now. There's nothing that compares to it as of yet. And that thing is just a monster. It's just shy of 23 feet, 101-inch beam, rated for 450, 30-inch transom, and it's got a dance floor up in the front, and it's got a dance floor in the back because it's so big. So now when you talk about how does each boat fit each person, it kind of goes back to what water are you fishing? What's your budget? What's your hopes and dreams and reality? And whether it's a 193 or 238, if you own any of those, you're all part of the Warrior family. They're all fantastic boats. They're all going to get you out on the water, and they're all going to not only get you out on the water, but they're going to get you back to the dock safe every day, no matter what Mother Nature throws at you. So when it starts talking, well, what's the perfect boat for me? That's hard. A hard answer that has to be an answer that you answer yourself, because I've seen people buy a 238 that they have on a 5,000 acre lake, and I've seen people that all they do is fish Great Lakes in places like Fort Peck, and they run a 193.
Yeah.
So you can't say, well, what size water are you going to fish, because any of them are going to handle anything you want to throw at them. They all draft roughly 18 inches of water. So it's one of those things, like, it's not a question that I could ever answer for somebody. I can just give you the guidelines of what fits you. Go out and get into them as many as you want. We talked about asking customers to or people to go ask somebody for a ride, and I would like to say, and really like to stand on a mountaintop and say, anybody that's part of the Warrior family is not going to deny you a ride to take you out in a Warrior boat. It's the greatest family there is, so I just know that they would take you out. And if you're looking at buying, ask your dealer. I don't care if you're buying a Warrior boat or if you're buying the competition. If the dealer won't take you out on a ride, why is he not taking you out on a ride? That should be one of the first things. Most people would never buy a vehicle without driving it, so why should you ever buy a boat without driving it? So it's kind of get in them. What model's going to fit you best? Get in them, crawl around, see what you see yourself in. Sit at the steering wheel, sit up front. Imagine you're setting the hook on that 10-pound walleye. Get your wife, get your kids in there. Get a good feel for it. Start when you're in a boat, imagining where you're going to put your stuff. Talk to the people that are there and how they set things up. So that's kind of how I would leave that, as what model's going to fit or specifically fit for people. There's no model that I would say is just built for a 500 acre lake, and this one's built for the Great Lakes, because you can take them everywhere. So it's kind of just more down to personal preference when you start talking different models with Warrior, because they're all going to get you home safe.
Yeah, and you brought up some great points there, and you got to get out and crawl around it, and like you say, envision, like if you really love the electronics and like a lot of it, envision where those are going to go. If you've got, for example, when we looked at that 238, and it probably took you a day to wipe all the slobber off of it from us. Wow, what a boat! But Captain was saying, hey, if we moved up to that one, I probably wouldn't be able to hear you bitching in the back at all, Downrigger. I'd be far enough away from you. So, but yeah.
Not a bad thing, would it be?
Yeah. So, that you got to look at it as far as how big a family, how many folks you take with you, all that. So those are just great advice. We're going to take one more quick break. And when we come back, I want you to talk about where we find Warrior boats in Montana. for those of you that are listening. Of course, those of you that listen outside of Montana, and we do have a ton of you that do that. If we have time, maybe we can mention a little bit about where we find a dealer for you too. But we'll talk about that when we come back right after this. I want to talk a bit about a very special company located in western Montana, Superior Hardwoods of Montana. They were established in 1977, and since that time, guiding customers through the woods has been their passion throughout their history. The main focus at Superior Hardwoods of Montana has been to provide the finest wide plank flooring and unique building materials available anywhere. One of the things I noticed right away about the owner of Superior Hardwoods of Montana, John Medliger, and his son Corey, and the rest of the staff there is they're very proud to offer the largest selection of in-stock flooring in the western United States. See, for over 40 years, they've been known for leading the industry in reclaimed and antique building materials, and the success that followed has allowed them to, now get this, stock over 11 acres of stunning architectural lumber that awaits the perfect addition to your home. One thing I want you to remember is just because they're located in Missoula, Montana, that does not mean they can't help you turn your home into a piece of historical art if you live somewhere else. They have been guiding folks from as far away as Hawaii and beyond through the woods for many years. So no matter if your project is located across the street from them, across the state, or somewhere else in the world, they can't wait to turn your house into a dream home. Their goal is simple. They stand ready to deliver the best choices with reliability and honesty, helping at any phase of a project with inspirational advice. And I'm not exaggerating when I say they actually treat their customers as friends and family. So the choice is yours. But if I were you, I would go to superior-hardwoods.com. superior-hardwoods.com. Of course, you're more than welcome to call them, 406-235-7452, or, they'd love you to visit 5120 Highway 93, just south of Missoula, Montana. They can't wait to guide you through the woods at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see them. You're going to love what they do to your home. And we are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Ken Andersen from Warrior Boats is with me, giving us some great advice on the start of our series of finding the right boat for you. And Ken's giving you some great advice about crawling around and looking at all this stuff. Now let's talk about finding that dealer. As you said, you got to get out and go to your dealer and find out. In Montana, where do we find Warrior Boats?
So you have two options in Montana right now. We have one out in Great Falls. That's Wallace Marine. Mitch and Sydney there. If you are in that area and want to talk Warrior and get in and see them, they'll take care of you. They got Ray Cole runs out of there, and he's given more test rides than you could even count. And then we have over by Fort Peck on the other end, we have Mondack Marine. We have Matt Cohen out there. So he's fantastic. He's one of probably the sharpest guys in the business when it comes to installing electronics. So you want to get one of those crazy setups with hundreds of screens on your boats, or 3-4 up in the front and a couple at your dash. He's the guy to get a hold of.
Yeah, really. Well, and actually Ray is pretty incredible on that too. But I'll tell you what,
he is. Yep.
Those two dealers, you're going to get top-notch service, and they're going to be able to answer a lot of questions. The other great thing about it that I've noticed about both dealers is odds are, if you're scratching your head going, boy, I can't decide, they can probably name a few names of people that you might know that have a Warrior and say, hey, talk to them. Don't believe me, get some advice from other people. And like you were saying, Kent, Warrior people, the Warrior family, you get one of those boats, and I think it's pretty cool in that people that own a Warrior are pretty proud of it. In fact, they're real proud of it.
As they should be.
Yeah. And so they like to they want to show you what's going on with it. And you've used that saying, Ken, a few times now, of the warrior family. Why do you use that? I mean, I always thought, well, okay, that's kind of a neat marketing thing. But then once Captain got a warrior, and of course I'm his spongy fishing partner who always sponges off him and rides around and does all this stuff with him. I started to notice, it is kind of like a family. Talk a bit about that, and especially about the rally and stuff that you guys do.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it starts off I would say it starts with Warrior itself. We treat our customers as their family. We don't look at another boat sale that comes across our desk as just another number. It's another family member. And if we see them on the street, if I see one at an event somewhere, I see somebody with a Warrior shirt on, I'm going to walk over, shake their hands, introduce myself, and say, nice to meet you. Thanks for buying a Warrior. And that just goes deep within our customers. It's just everybody has some common ground. Like I talked at the beginning. We all love to fish, and we all love the great outdoors, and we have a great product that's going to keep us safe, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's just kind of like the Harley Davidson thing, it's just all everybody's tight knit, and probably one of the coolest things and one of my favorite weeks of the year is the Warrior Rally, or the owners tournament we do up at Lake of the Woods. This year it's August 17th. So if you own a Warrior boat, whether you're from Montana, we got people that come all the way out from New York, Ohio. So that's a lot further than Montana. So you have no excuse not to come up. But we're goes out of Wigwam Resort up at Lake of the Woods. You don't have to stay at Wigwam because that's usually always packed full. But there is tons of resorts to choose from, all within, in regards walking distance, if you wanted to come down to the Wigwam where the tent is and whatnot. But it's you really feel what the Warrior family is when you're there. So a good friend of mine, actually, guy that owns Church Tackle, he owns the 208s from Michigan. And he said he always heard, the Warrior family phrase and this and that. And after he was up at Lake of the Woods, I ran into him at a show here a couple of years ago, and he goes, at first when you talked about the Warrior family and all that stuff, he goes, I just kind of, whatever, it's, marketing thing. And he's like, kind of thought it was a little bit corny and whatnot, but he said, after I was up there, he goes, the Warrior family, he says, that's a real deal. Like he says, It's a real deal. It's live and well. When you're up there, you see it. And obviously you see people on the street or whatever, you pass a guy with a Warrior sticker on their truck, or they're pulling their boat, and everybody kind of gives that wave, like Justin Schneider says in our current commercial, running around. And it's a fact. I mean, it's a pretty special thing to be part of. Glad I've been able to be part of it, and just love to continue watching it grow, and the more the merrier.
Well, you're right about it. You really are. In that, and believe me, folks, I'm not knocking it. If you own a different type of boat, or that, we're showing you an option here. But that family deal is for sure, for real. It really is. And to have that tournament that you guys do every year, and that it's a really neat deal. So without a doubt, Warrior has got to be one of your options when you're thinking about getting a new boat, whether you've been, a boater for a long time, or maybe you've just started out, maybe you finally retired and said, hey, I'm going to get into this fishing thing for real. Yeah, you got to look at the Warrior, and go see them there at Wallace or at Mondack, and, ask all the questions.
Yep, they'll take care of everything you need. I'm curious, when are you and Captain going to make it up to Lake of the Woods?
Now, I talked to him about that last year, and what the heck happened? Something happened. Because we were really thinking about doing it, and then something happened. We couldn't go, but I'm leaning on him hard this year because I definitely want to do that. I keep hearing about all this fun and all the great things that go on there. So I'm
Not else,
definitely.
he comes and see Chuck and Perry then.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as far as other states, how many different states do you have dealers in now? Do you know off the top of your head, Ken?
Oh, off the top of my head, I could just rattle off what states we have them in. We got dealers in New York, Ohio, Michigan. We have 2 in Michigan. Up in New York, it's Collins Marine in Tonawanda. In Ohio, it's Erie Marine Sales, Sheffield Lake. Michigan, we have Freeway Sports Center in Fenton. Inland Marine up in Augraze. In Wisconsin, we have Spellman's Marina in Oshkosh. And then we just signed on a dealership that has 3 locations, 3 different store names. It's got Country Sports in Wisconsin Rapids, Power Pack in Marshfield, Irv's Sales and Service up in Tomahawk. And then we have the Boat Center in Chippewa Falls. And you bounce into Minnesota, and we have the Boat Center in Ramsey, Minnesota. We have Highway 3 Marine in Brainerd, Minnesota, Muskie House Marine in Longville. We have Kovash Marine in Moorhead. In the lower South Dakota there, we have Norland Marine out in Belfouche. And then we have Helm Marine up in Aberdeen. We have in Bismarck, North Dakota, we have Mild Wild Motorsports, and then Pure Power Sports up in Minot. Down in Iowa, we got SLP Marine. They just came on this year, and then we have a dealer down in Missouri, Midwest Marine Boat Sales. So they're, I think I got everyone. If I missed you, you can fire me. But
And
I think
if
it's rattling off the top of my head, and then we got we got one up in, or 2 up in Canada too. We have one up in Nestor Falls on the north end of Lake of the Woods there, Nestor Falls Marine, and then we have one in Saskatchewan, which is Anchor Marine. So we have them spread all out. So if you're not in Montana and you're looking for a warrior, we have a place to facilitate that and get you in the warrior family. I missed one in Nebraska. We got Apex Marine down in Nebraska and Grand Islands. So
okay,
I think I got them all.
and for those of you like Wyoming or Colorado, not there yet, but I know that it's a beautiful drive up to Montana, and the folks in Wallace or Mondack would be able to help you out up here.
Oh,
in
they'd love
Montana.
they'd love to be their home base for their warrior boats. So
Yeah. So by all means, because I know a lot of you, we have quite a few people that listen in Denver and a few other areas there. So check it out. And I'll tell you what, there's a ton of you that come up to Montana anyway, because we're already seeing it, that we have the big check stations before you can come into the state, and they're already stacking up coming in. So, to do the AIS checking and that. So, what the heck, go see the gang there in Great Falls and in Glasgow, and chat with them a little bit while you're up here fishing anyway, because you might as well look at all your options, and the Warrior is a great option. Kent, anything else that you want to cover before we head on out and get you back out on the water?
I'd just like to welcome everybody to the Warrior family. If you're in the market for a boat, at least give us a look. One thing I can guarantee you is our customer service and our quality is second to none, and we will take care of you as a customer for the entirety time you own that boat. So if you're boat shopping and it fits, I know it's not going to fit everybody, and I'm more than happy to have you part of the Warrior family. If you ever see me out and about and you have any questions of whether it's at the Gov Cup or whatnot, and it's not even about a Warrior boat, I'm more than happy to help everybody out. At the end of the day, the more people we can get in the fishing industry and out fishing and enjoying the great outdoors, the gift of God that keeps on giving, is come and ask me a question. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and in that podcast description, folks, I'm going to of course, put the link to warriorboatsinc.com so you can look there. I'll also put the links to Wallace Marine and also Mondax. So you'll be able to click in there and see what's going on there. And I'll also get you emails. And I imagine if people want to email you, Kent, directly and ask some questions, it's okay.
Absolutely. You can probably the easiest one to ever catch me at is just info@warriorboatsllc.com, and it'll direct to me, and we'll answer the questions you need answered, and we'll be there for you.
And I'll have that link, info at Warrior Boats. I'm going to put that link as well in the podcast description, so I'll make it easy. All you have to do is click on it, and it'll open up your email program, and boom, get the email ready for you to shoot out. So that'll give you guys a lot of good homework to do, and this will be a good adventure for you. Start here, and then as we go along, you'll learn about some other ideas too. But
absolutely, and before you know it, summer's going to be here. We're on the downside of the winter. I mean, it's felt like summer in Minnesota, Wisconsin, pretty much all year. But
here in Montana,
it sounds like
too.
we're gonna get blasted with some snow this weekend. So, but if you're honestly thinking about buying a boat, it doesn't matter what brand it is. Don't wait. Yes, there's inventory out there, but when this thing gets rolling this spring, the inventory's not going to last long, and the manufacturers aren't going to be able to crank it up to catch up. So if you're thinking about a new boat, hopefully it's a Warrior. Don't wait too long.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something, that's why we do this podcast now. I mean, some of you might be going, well, gee, it's not even summer yet. Well, that's not the time to look at boats, my friends. I mean, sure, you can do that, but right now is the time to get out there and get your decision made and get it going while you got some choices to
absolutely. What are we 6-7 weeks away from May till May 1st? So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a blink of the eye, and summer's going to be upon us, and you don't want to be sitting on shore. So,
well, there you have it. Kent Andersen, thank you so much. And we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure, at the Gov Cup and other places as well. And say hi to everybody at the whole Warrior family for us.
Will do, and thanks for having me.
You bet. And there you have it. There is Kent Andersen for Warrior Boats. There's a good selection there, folks. A good idea. You can always go back and listen to this podcast again and hear more of that info and that. So take a look at it. We'll get you found, and we'll get you into the right boat. Don't worry about it. We got lots of good ideas. And, of course, you can always contact me. In fact, Manny, I'll have my email for you here coming up next. Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. And by all means, have some fun shopping for your next new boat.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.